Now, a couple of things I need to take some notes of, okay? I was very sort of undetailed when we were talking about introducing matrices because I didn't want you to get caught up in language too quickly, okay? But what you're looking at, what we started talking about, they're not just matrices, okay? They're actually called augmented matrices. Augmented matrices, okay? The reason they're called augmented is because, see that line down the middle, right? Well, not quite down the middle, but in that section there, right? It really means you've got two matrices and they've just been jammed together, right? And I'm just doing all the same operations to everything, okay? So there's the first thing. It's really an augmented matrix. I don't have to have an augmented one, right? I could just write, for instance, down the bottom there in the bottom left-hand corner, I could have this. 0, 0, 1, which would be that's still a matrix, right? And then I can put it together with another one, -2, -2, and 4, right? It's the same thing, but I'm just kind of trying to save a bit of time and a bit of space, okay? So instead of having these two brackets, I put them together, there you go, okay? All right, now, secondly, I want you to look back over the operations that we wrote down. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see a few more. Hopefully you can still read those. That's enough. Okay. Have a look at the operations. We did a whole bunch of them, lots of different variants on them. There are really only 3 things you can do. I'm going to call these row operations. Okay, and I'd love you to make the same subheading as well. 1, 2, 3. Okay. There are only 3 things you can do, really. I'll give you the first one for free because I didn't really do it in this case, okay? You tell me why I can do this. I'm going to try and word this as simple as I can. One of the operations you can do is you can swap rows if you want to, okay? What would swapping rows signify in the original question? About A's and B's and C's. If I were to swap row 2 and row 3, for instance, or row 1 and row 2, what would it mean to do that? Yeah, I don't.
Mine is saying that if you were subtracting anything from it, it make it easier.
Okay, right. So in case I want to have the positives subtract the negatives, or vice versa, or whatever, or big numbers take away little numbers. Okay, it's just a position thing. I guess up here it would mean instead of saying equation 1, equation 2, equation 3, I just label them differently. Maybe I want this one to be 1, and this one 2, and this one 3, or whatever. Okay, that's a simple thing. What are the other kinds of operations that we did? Very, very simple. Any takers for the second one? Good. You can add rows. Now, I'm not even gonna say subtract, really, because subtraction is just adding in reverse. Is that okay? Right? So you can add rows, or you can add negative rows, right? You don't just get to be able to add rows though, either. You can also have a look at this line here. See this one? Oops, not the whole thing, just that, right? In that case, I added a multiple of a row, right? So I'm going to say, now, I'm going to put some words here which you might not understand what they mean, but let's tease it apart. Okay, right. So you're like, it started off pretty simple. Why'd you make it all confusing? Let's think about it, okay? Adding rows, we get that, right? No prizes for guessing. What does non-zero mean? Anything that's non-zero? Okay, I have a question for you. Think about it. What would be missing? What would change if I didn't have that phrase there? I'll let you think about it at the end of the lesson. I'll tell you the answer. Yeah, unless someone can work it out, okay? Because this phrase is actually important. You can add non-zero. Now, scalar, what does that mean? For our intents and purposes, it just means numbers. Okay? Now you're thinking, what else can you multiply by, if not by numbers? And the answer is, stay tuned for the next lesson. Okay, now, scalar, and then multiples, you know what those are, okay? So I could add 3 times row 1, or 2 times row 1, or 1 times row 1, and so on, okay? But you can't multiply rows by 0. Ooh, why? You have to think about it.
Because then everything equals 0, so 0 equals 0.
Well, okay, but so what? So what is my question? I'll let you have a think about it, okay? There's one more thing I can do. Have a look. Yeah, I can. Well, and division is really just backwards multiplication, isn't it? So I'm just going to say multiply rows by, and I'm going to say the same thing, right? Non-zero numbers. Okay? We'll tease out exactly why I'm introducing this weird word in the next week or so. Okay?